Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we get to take a look at the 2024 Chevrolet Camaro. This is an LT1 with the RS package. Huge shout out to Hendrick BMW Charlotte for providing the sports car for me today. Take a look at their website. That link is down in the description. This model is finished off in Summit White. They have a starting MSRP right around $40,000. Now underneath the hood, this is powered by the 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. This model is paired to the 10-speed automatic, and it pumps out 455 horsepower, 455 pound-feet of torque. That power is sent to the rear wheels, propelling this 3,600-pound muscle car from 0 to 60 in as quick as 4 seconds. It has a top speed of 150 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 19 gallons. You'll expect to see around 16 miles per gallon in the city, 19 out on the highway. This also has a wheelbase of 111 inches. Its overall length is 188.3. It has a width of 74.7, a height of 53.1, and its ground clearance measures in at 4 inches. Now, as we take a look at the exterior styling for the last model year for this Camaro, nothing has really changed for the 24-year model. It's been very similar to this for several years now. Up on the hood, this has functional heat extraction vents with a nice accent to the hood there with the lines on both sides. And then you'll notice too that this has the sunken in design for the headlights. Everything is LED, of course, but it matches nicely with the grille, along with having all the cutouts. There's the RS badge there, and then there's a lot more cutouts in that lower section. There's also inlets on the far edges to provide even more airflow. And then as we work our way to the side, this model has a set of matte black wheels with that multi-spoke design. There's also the red Brembo brakes as well. This has body colored side mirrors. There's no sunroof for this coupe. It has some very nice lines, especially all those angles in the lower section of the door, and a very large rear fender arch with that line that goes all the way to the back. Now this model does have a body colored spoiler. There's a third brake light, the 3D dimensional design to those taillights. There's also a backup camera. There's no parking sensors for this model, but this does have the dual exhaust. Now we do have remote start, so let's lock it and take a listen to this V8. And then you can also hold on the button to shut it off as well. And then you can use the button on the key fob or the hidden release underneath to open up the trunk. So that makes it very practical, especially if this is your daily. Now there's not a ton of space. The one drawback I will say with the Camaro is how narrow this opening is, because it's larger once you get in, but if you have some larger items, they may not fit through this opening. But nonetheless, you have a good bit of space, and you can even fold down the back seat if you have some larger items that you'd like to place through. And then as we work our way to the interior, we do have this button here that you can use to lock and unlock. And then the door panel has a really nice design to it. There is some plastic, but you do have the leather, you have a trunk release, Bose audio, there's your side window controls along with your mirror adjustments, and then lock and unlock. And then take a look at these two-tone Recaro seats, which have a really nice design to them, especially with the lateral supports there. They are automatic with the one manual adjustment there. So you do have to push that forwards, and then from there you actually have to move the seat forward. So it won't automatically do that, which I think it should, but you're not buying this car for a full 4-seater. So you're really not going to be back here often. As you can tell, that seat would definitely need to be adjusted. You have a little bit of storage there, and then at 5'10", I'm not really ducking that much, but you know, this is around town. I'm not going on a long road trip. So if I needed a ride from point A to point B, I could do that. So it gives you enough there, or you can use that for extra storage, which is of course nice. And then from there, we do need to move this seat back and put it into its normal position. Now, as we hop in, this model has an Alcantara steering wheel with the flat bottom design to it, which is pretty neat to see. We have the paddle shifters on both sides. You have cruise control settings. There's also favorites, volume, and then you have Bluetooth and voice commands, and then these controls for the gauge cluster. So let's fire this up again and get some rev clips of that V8. As we come back to the gauge cluster now, you'll notice on the left side there's the tach, fuel and engine temperature are in the middle, miles per hour is on that right side. And then we can use these arrows to scroll through all of this tech, just depending on what you would like to see. You don't have a whole lot to go through, just those, and then a few options here that you can look at. but it is helpful to have that front and center. Now on the left, you have one air vent. You also have a dimmer switch. There's no head-up display. And then as we look at the infotainment system, you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have all of these other, oh, there's volume. You have all of these other icons that you can get into, including the split screen here. So that way you can view all this, get into your climates as well. And then you have shortcuts in the lower section, so you can get through all of this as you would like to. Then you have some physical buttons down below, including volume and tuning there. Now with the AC, you can actually adjust the temperature by rotating the surround, so that's nice to see. And then you have some more recirc adjustments in the middle. Fan speed is going to be on that far side. So we do have a single zone for this system. Now we have Alcantara for the shifter. When we put it into reverse, you have a pretty good backup camera there, and then you can shift using the shifter or the paddles. There's traction control, and then a few different driving modes. You have Tour, Sport, and Snow and Ice. There's the e-brake, a 12 volt, some cup holders. You get a little bit of storage with some auxiliaries down below. And then the glove box also has plenty of space. And then up top, you have your rear view mirror along with dome lights and some call buttons too. And then here's a look at visibility. You have a pretty big pillar there, but honestly, with your side view mirrors and looking out of that back glass, you really don't have any blind spots. Yes, it's confined, it's a little bit tight, but you get used to it and you'll know where to look. So as we set off behind the wheel now for the last year for the Chevrolet Camaro, it is kind of unfortunate to see, unless Chevrolet has something coming that hasn't been released yet, I think this is a really good muscle car in the option of the three. You have the Ford Mustang and you have the Dodge Challenger as well. To me, I think the Chevrolet Camaro is the best of all three. I've never owned any of them, just my personal opinion. I do like driving the Camaros more, simply because I just don't see them as often as Mustangs and the Chargers go. But this is a really cool vehicle, especially one that we're in basically a base model with that NA V8. So if you're looking for a vehicle that has a lot of potential to it, a lot of modding potential, just really anything you want to do with a muscle car like this, you have a really good base level vehicle to start out with without going to some of the higher trim levels, the ZL1, you know, something like that. You can start off with this LT1 and build it up from there. You also have the 6-speed manual that you can get as well. So just depending on the transmission that you would like, I prefer the manual, but let's downshift a little bit here. Definitely sounds good. Not the fastest. You have a decent amount of horsepower with this V8, but it's really nice to drive. I really don't have too many complaints with the Camaro. Yes, it's pretty tight feeling in here, but it's not all that bad. You have plenty of visibility over both sides, so if you want this car, I won't let that deter you from buying one. It's pretty easy to kind of learn where you need to look and when you need to look and everything like that. From second gear, and just a mild acceleration, we're up to speed. Paddles are pretty responsive too. I do wish they were maybe a little bit larger, or not quite as flimsy. These are just kind of small plastic pieces, but they're there if you want to use them. That's why I would prefer to go with the manual transmission. But even with the 10 gears in the Camaro here, it seems like you can play with them. Now, I'm not doing any performance driving, but we have had a few of the Mustangs to drive with the 10 speeds, and I like the fact that you have them for kind of overdrive gears on the highway, but it still allows you to rev out, second, third, fourth gear if you're doing some mountain driving. It doesn't limit your RPM basically, or the fun factor in having multiple gears. They're just there to help with the overdrive and things like that for the highway, just to help with better fuel economy. But regardless of that, it's a fun car to drive. It'll be interesting to see what Chevrolet decides to do to replace the Camaro. This is such an iconic vehicle. It's been a vehicle that's been unchanged for decades. It'd be nice to see something brand new coming for 2026, 2027. I think Chevrolet has to compete with Ford continuing with the Mustang. The Dodge Challenger is going electric, which is going to drive everyone to Mustang basically. So Chevrolet needs to come out with something so that they can stay in the competition of the muscle cars, because pretty soon everyone's just going to be driving around a Mustang. And from second gear, here we go. Definitely sounds good. I'm doing a mild acceleration, so when you really get in the higher RPM, the V8s have a really good tone to them, and from the factory it sounds pretty good as is. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel of the Chevrolet Camaro. I think it's a really nice position in here with how tight it does feel. You have a very low roof line here with where the windshield is, but you have clear view of the entire hood there. You can see pretty much out of the entire front area with a good bit of visibility over the shoulders there, but it's a nice place to be. This would make for a great daily driver. Like I mentioned earlier, with this specific trim level, unless this is in your budget, this is a great option to go with, but it's also a good option if you want to buy something and build it up from there. So we have a really good platform here with that NA V8, which I know a lot of people like. So you have a lot of potential, but you also have a really good vehicle as it sits from the factory. And you have a lot of nice options. I didn't know you could get Alcantara specifically for some models like this. So it's a great vehicle. Turning radius is also pretty good. So it's going to be very maneuverable. And then as far as getting back up to speed goes, we are back up to speed just like that. So it's a nice place. It's not really a four-seater, but you know, you have a lot of interior storage, which I like, especially with two-door vehicles. It's always important to have that extra storage space. So if you want to place in some items, this is your only car, you can pack it full of things and be just fine. If they're not large items, of course, you can definitely fit a lot in this car as is. But that is going to wrap it up for the last model year, 2024 Chevrolet Camaro. Once again, huge shout out to Hendrick BMW Charlotte for providing this muscle car for me today. Take a look at their website, give this video a huge thumbs up, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.